Today we are starting a new lesson over geometry, and geometry is the study of shapes. Okay, so you should have a worksheet or this packet of lesson 12.1 out on your desk. I want you to follow along on the worksheet and make sure you have everything written down just like you normally would on the smartboard. Okay, so this lesson is all about shapes, okay, and learning little things about the shapes. So let me scroll down. The first one says, an architect draws plans for houses, stores, offices, and other buildings. Look at the shapes in the drawing at the right. Okay, so if we look over here, we can see this kind of looks like a house. We can see some windows and some doors. Okay, so each of these is called a plane shape because it says a plane shape is a shape that's on a flat surface. It is formed by points that make curved paths, line segments, or both. So a plane shape means that it's flat. Okay, so if you draw a shape on a piece of paper, the shape that you draw is flat, which means it's a plane shape. Okay, some things are three-dimensional, okay, like a ball or a box. Okay, it's not flat. Plane shapes are flat. They're called two-dimensional shapes. Okay, shapes normally have things like points, lines, endpoints, line segments, or rays. Okay, so this chapter has a lot of math vocab that we need to make sure that we know. Okay, so a point is just an exact location or position of something. So if we look at this, we have a line and then there's a point right in the middle. Just like we put points on number lines, it shows the exact location of the line that we're talking about. A line over here, a line is a straight path, so it has to be straight, not curved. Okay, and it continues in both directions. That's why there's arrows on the end. Okay, it will never end. It's going to continue on in both directions forever. And they put those arrows on there to show you. Endpoints, right here, it says points that are used to show segments of lines. So if you have a part of a line, okay, there might be endpoints at the end to show you where it starts and stops. Okay, a line segment like this, or like this one, is also a straight path like a line, but it's only part of a line. Okay, and it has two endpoints. So if you look up here at the picture of the house, you can see this line starts here and stops here. So since it doesn't have arrows showing that it's going forever, we don't actually call it a line. Its actual name would be called a line segment. Okay, if it has endpoints at the end showing you where it stops, then that's a line segment because it's not continuing on. A line has to have arrows at the end showing that it's going to continue in both directions. Okay, line segments have two endpoints because they're part of a line, so they have a stopping point. A ray is the other one, so it's also part of a line and it's straight, okay, similar to a line segment, but it has one endpoint and then continues on in one direction forever. Okay, so it's kind of similar to both a line and a line segment. Lines go in both directions forever. A ray only goes in one direction forever. Okay, and it has an endpoint on its other end showing that it stops. Okay, so lots of math vocab words that we need to make sure that we know, so we will keep referring to these words. It says some plane shapes are made by connecting line segments at their endpoints. One example is a square. So if we look at this square, okay, we can see that these are line segments because they're straight, they're part of a line, and they each have two endpoints. Okay, so if we look from here to here, this line segment, okay, connects to this line segment, which connects to this line segment, and then this line segment closes the shape. Okay, so if we look at this, it says a square has blank line segments. Okay, when you're counting line segments, sometimes the shapes will have a lot of line segments, okay, or they might be drawn kind of funky, so it's kind of easy if you just count 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has 4 line segments. Okay, the line segments meet only at their, okay, they meet right here, and those we said are called endpoints. That's where they all meet. Okay, so that's the word that they're looking for, right? Endpoints on the line. Okay, then turn the page in your packet The next page it says plane shapes have a length and a width, but no thickness, so they are called two-dimensional shapes. Okay, so that's what I was telling you earlier. Plane shapes mean that they are flat. You could see how long they are and how wide something is, but there's no thickness to it. Okay, so they're plane shapes or two-dimensional shapes. Those things mean the same thing. They just mean that they're flat. Okay, look at the next part. It says draw plane shapes. Plane shapes can be open or closed. So a closed shape starts and ends at the same point. So if you look at all of these, okay, you can't get into the middle of them without crossing one of the lines. Okay, so you can see a circle wherever it starts, it's going to also stop at that same point, which means it's closed. Okay, so it says in the space below, draw more examples of closed shapes. Okay, so even if you have random squiggly lines, as long as they start and end at the same spot, that would be considered a closed shape. Okay, we could have kind of like a trapezoid. As long as wherever your pencil starts, that's also where it should stop, then it would be a closed shape. Okay, we could have okay. So the shape, it doesn't really matter what it looks like as long as there's no opening to it. Okay, so you can have a simple shape like a square, like they do over here. Okay, or funky little shapes, kind of like I drew over here. Make sure you draw a couple. Okay, that could have just been a simple little rectangle. Okay, a trapezoid, squiggly lines that connect so that there's no opening. Okay, something like that. Make sure you have a few closed shapes drawn, no openings. Okay, down here is where it says an open shape does not start and stop at the same point. So if you look at these, okay, they're shapes, they're lines or drawings, but they're not closed. You can get into the shape. There's an opening. So it says in the space below, draw more examples of open shapes. Okay, so you could have a shape that's almost closed. Okay, but right here, you can see they didn't stop and start at the same spot. Oh, sorry. Okay, so you can tell that one is open. Okay, same with this. There's an opening to get inside of it. Okay, could just be something very simple. As long as there's an opening, then it's an open shape. It did not start and stop at the same endpoint, which means it's open. There's an opening or a gap to get into that shape. Okay, so make sure you have a few open shapes drawn there. Make sure you have a few closed shapes drawn up top. Closed have no openings. Open shapes have a little gap somewhere. Okay, this one says, is the plane shape at the right a closed shape or an open shape? Explain how you know. So if we look over here, we can see to try to get inside the middle of that shape, you would have to cross over a line, which means there is no gap. So there is no opening, which makes it a closed shape. Okay, so we would say closed shape because there is no gap or opening. Okay, so make sure you have that written down. Okay, it is a closed shape because there is no gap or opening to get into the middle of it. Okay, if you look up here at their examples earlier of open shapes, you can get into the middle right here without crossing a line. Okay, you can get into this shape without crossing a line. Okay, you can get in here or in here without opening or crossing through a line, so that means they are open shapes. The one down here, you would have to cross one of the lines, which means a closed shape. So, closed shape because there's no gap or opening. Make sure you have that written down, and then go ahead and look at the next page. It says up at the top, write how many line segments the shape has. So segments, remember, is part of a line that has two endpoints. So if I look here, from here to here, I can see it's a line, it's a straight path, but it has two endpoints. So this would be one line segment, two line segments, three line segments. So write our number 3 on the line. Okay, so that's just counting the sides or the line segments of a triangle. This one says, circle all the words that describe the shape. So as you look at each one, you got to read the lines underneath it and see, are both of them true or just one? Okay, so when we look at this, we see a ray. Okay, if you don't remember, if you look back at the front, we said a ray is a straight part of a line that has one endpoint and continues in one direction forever. So if we look at this, it does have one endpoint. It does continue in one direction forever, and it is straight, which means it is a ray. So we got to circle it. Okay. This also has a point. But remember, a point is just one exact location. Okay. So both of these words describe that picture. It is a ray, and it does have a point. So both of those words should be circled. Okay. Look at number 3. It says open shape. And when we look, there's no opening, so we can't circle that one. Or closed shape, it is a closed shape. So in this one, we would just circle the bottom one. Number 4, it says open shape, closed shape. So I can see right here, there's an opening or a gap that I can get into the shape without crossing a line. So that one is an open shape, but it is not a closed shape. Closed shape, there would have had to be one more line segment at the top, making it connected. Okay, and number 5, if we look right here, our options are line and line segment. A line has to have arrows on both ends, showing that it continues on forever. And this one has two endpoints, which means it's not a line. It's only part of a line with two endpoints, which is called a line segment. Okay, so number 2, you should have both of them, but the other 3 just had one that named the shape. Make sure you have the right one circled. Okay, for 6, 7, 8, and 9, the directions say write whether the shape is open or closed. So these are kind of quick, easy little ones. You just see, is there a gap or an opening? Okay, or is it completely connected? Are all the lines connected so you cannot get inside? Okay, so hopefully you can see on this one, it's open, it's not connected, there is a gap. Okay, number 7, you can see the whole thing is connected. There's no gaps getting in it. So that one is a closed shape. Number 8, you can also see there are no gaps. All the lines are connected. They started and stopped at the same point, which means this one is also closed. Okay, number 9, you can see most of the lines are connected, but then there is a little gap or opening right here where you can get on the inside of the shape. So number 9 is also an open shape. Make sure you're writing these down. Your papers should be getting completed as you watch and listen to the video. Number 10, it says write how many line segments the shape has. So remember, some of them start getting more like this one where it's hard to keep track of maybe where you started and stopped. So if you just put a line or a dot next to each one as you count, 1, 2, 3, 4, then we know this one has 4 line segments. Okay, this one, if you put a little dot or a line, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one would have 8 line segments or 8 sides to the shape that all stop and start at an endpoint. Okay, number 12. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one also has 4 line segments. And number 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Has 6 sides or 6 line segments that start and stop at an endpoint. For 14 through 17, we're writing if they are open or closed again. So we're looking for little gaps or openings, or if all the lines are connected. Okay, so when we look at 14, we can see all the lines are connected. There's no gap, so that one is a closed shape. Okay, when we look at 15, I can see there's a gap right here where I can get in. All the lines are not connected, which means it is an open shape. Okay, number 16, I can see I would have to cross a line to get into it, which means it is a closed shape. Number 17 also has no gaps or openings. I'd have to cross a line to get into the middle of it, which makes it also a closed shape. So 14, 16, and 17 were all closed. Number 15 was the only one that was open in this group. Make sure you have those written down, and then go ahead and go to your next page. The next page in the packet, it says number 18, what's the error? So we're looking for a mistake. It says, Brittany says there are 2 endpoints in the shape that's shown at the right. Is she correct? So if I'm looking at the shape, she said there are 2 endpoints. So when I'm looking at this, I see 1 endpoint and then 1 arrow, which means it's continuing on forever. So it's not going to be an endpoint. Okay, so it says, is she correct? Our answer should be no. And if we think about this, we got to work on knowing our math vocab, so we need to know what this is called. A straight path that continues on in one direction forever and has 1 endpoint is called a ray. So we would need to show that it is not a line segment that Brittany was talking about. 2 endpoints is a line segment. This one is actually a ray. So we need to say no. The picture, everybody's writing, the picture shows a ray, not a line segment. A line segment would have 2 endpoints like Brittany said, but this one only has 1 endpoint and then continues on in the other direction forever. Okay, look at number 19. If you didn't get done writing, you can either pause the video, okay, or it's also still on the screen. Just keep writing. Number 19, it says, explain how you can make the shape at the right a closed shape. Change the shape so it is a closed shape. So right now, we can see that there's a gap to get in here. So it is an open shape. Okay. They're telling us they know that it's open, but they want us to make it a closed shape. So if we wanted to make this closed, we would have to add another line over here so that they would be connected. And if they're connected at their endpoints, that means that would be part of a line that has 2 endpoints, which is called a line segment. Okay, so if we have to draw it, like they said, to make it a closed shape, we'd have to connect this one down to the bottom. Now it's closed. Okay, and they want us to explain what we had to do. So all we had to do was add 1 line segment to connect the ends together. So write that on the lines. Add 1 line segment. Make sure everybody's writing. Add 1 line segment to connect the ends. Okay, so we explained how we could make it closed. We would add 1 line segment to connect, this is an N, to connect the ends. So we connected the 2 ends together to make it a closed shape. Again, you can pause if you need more time to write, okay, or keep writing because you can still see it on the screen. Okay, number 20, it says, look at Carly's drawing at the right. What did she draw? So if we look at just that first question so far, what did she draw? So we have a straight path. We can see there's 1 endpoint. And we can see there's one arrow, which means it continues on in one direction forever. So think about what that's called. And if you don't remember, go back and look at the very front page. What did Carly draw? You should have gotten that Carly drew a ray, because a ray has one arrow showing it continues on in this direction forever, but it has one endpoint. Okay, so the first question said, what did she draw? So that's what we need to answer first. She drew a ray. Everybody's writing. Okay, the next question said, how is that like a line? And how is it different? Okay, so a line, remember we said has to continue on in both directions forever. A ray just continues on in one direction forever. Okay, so how is it like and different than a line? We need to explain. A ray only continues, everybody's writing, a ray only continues in one direction instead of two. Okay, and then it says change the drawing so that it is a line. So if we're going to make it a line, we have to continue it on in the other direction and add an arrow down here as well, so that now it's showing two arrows instead of one arrow and one endpoint. Okay, so you need to make sure you explained and answered the questions, and then also made the drawing show a line instead of a ray. Okay, she originally had a ray. They want you to make it into a line. Okay, then look down to number 21. Again, pause the video if you need more time. Okay, if you're caught up, keep looking at the next question. Number 21, it says draw a closed shape in the workspace by connecting 5 line segments at their endpoint. So if we need 5 line segments, and they have to be connecting, and they need to meet at their endpoints, which means if they're meeting at their endpoints, that means we need to have a closed shape. They're connected, there's 5 of them, and they meet at their endpoint, so there can't be an opening. Okay, so if I'm thinking about a 5-sided shape, okay, I could have 1 line segment, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they started and stopped at that same endpoint. Okay, so here would be a point, here would be a point. Okay, we would have 5 endpoints with our 5 line segments, all connecting and meeting at their endpoints. Okay, so make sure that you have a 5-sided shape, something probably similar to mine, connected, make them as straight as you can, okay, because line segments are supposed to be straight. Okay, last one on this page for number 22. It says draw each shape where it belongs in the table. So we have 4 shapes, and we either have to draw if they're closed or open. So if I look at this shape right here, I can see it looks like a diamond and there is no opening. If there's no openings, that means it's closed. Okay, so try to draw something similar to what they have, make it look like a diamond. Okay, the next one is kind of like a backwards L. I can see right here there's an opening. There's a gap, which means it is an open shape. So that one belongs in the open shape box. Make sure you try to make them look similar. Here we kind of have a half sideways triangle. We can see right here there's a gap or an opening. Okay, so we need to get that one in the open shape as well. Okay, this one, it's like a half circle, but it is all connecting. There is no opening or gap. So that one is a closed shape. Okay, try to draw them pretty similar to what they are over here. Put them in the boxes or in the table where they belong. All right, let's look at the next page. The next page is kind of a review of the vocab words that we had. Since there's a few of them, we're going to kind of review them quickly, but we're also going to look at how we write them. Okay, when you write a point or draw it. Okay, we talked about a point is an exact location in space. So a point is just a dot. Okay, most of the times when we see a point, though, it's somewhere on a line or a line segment or array. Okay, so when we draw it, we draw the little dot and then we label it with whatever letter it is. Okay, when we read this, we would say point A. Okay, when you write it in words, it would be that same way. Okay, a line, we said, is the straight path that continues on forever in both directions. So a line can have points on it, but a line is going to have arrows at the end of it showing that it's continuing. Okay, so when you are reading this, you would say line BC. Okay, you call a line by the points that are on it. So if you look here, line BC, or it could be the other way, line CB. They go both directions, so it doesn't matter. Either way would be the same. Okay, when you write it though, a line has two arrows at the or at the top of it. Okay, so you would write the letters that are on the line, BC or CB, and then up above it, you would draw a line with arrows on both ends showing that it's continuing. Okay, a line segment is just part of a line rather than the whole thing continuing on forever. It's just part of a line that has two endpoints. So this would be line segment DE because you can see there's no arrows pointing to show that it's continuing. It just stops and starts at D and E. Okay, so this you would say line segment DE or line segment ED. It doesn't matter which way it goes. It doesn't matter which one's first. Okay, you just name the line or line segments by their points. When you write it though, okay, like right here, you have DE and you just draw a line above it. You don't add arrows to it like you do up here. Okay, this one up here for the line, it's a BC with a line and then two arrows. Okay, because it's a line, so it has to show the arrows going on. This one is a line segment, so we have DE, but we just put a little line above it. Okay, no arrows, no endpoint. So line DE or line segment DE or line segment ED, both of them would be correct. Okay. The last one we said was called array. It's when there's one endpoint and one arrow showing it's still part of a line. It's not going on in both directions forever, but it is going on without stopping in one direction. So when we say this or read it, we would say ray FG. Okay, because it has to start at the endpoint and then continue on. And then when we write it, we would write the FG because those are the points that are on the line. And then we draw a line, but we have to mark it with one arrow. So a line has two arrows. A line segment above it is just a line with nothing. And then array is a line with one arrow over it. Okay, points, we just call them their point and whatever letter it is. Okay, so we can see lines or line segments or arrays, okay, in our everyday lives. Okay, if you look at these pictures over here, you can see like the middle lines of a road. They continue on forever and ever and ever until the road stops, which could be a really long time. Okay, a yield sign is in the shape of a triangle, so it stops and starts, okay, at these endpoints. Array you might see as like a one-way street where you continue on in one direction forever, but you can't drive down it the other way. Okay, it's a one-way only. Okay, so remember, point, line, line segment, ray. Okay, so let's look down here. It says draw and label JK, and notice what's above it. That's the important part. The JK with just a line, no arrows, okay, means it's a line segment. Okay, just like we did here. Line segments have two endpoints, and they told us the endpoints are J and K. So if we draw it, we have to put our endpoints at the end. Okay, and then we have to have our J and our K showing those are our letters. Okay, so this is what this would match. This is how it would look as a drawing. line segment JK. Okay, because that's how it's written here. If this had arrows up above, it would be line JK instead of line segment JK. So make sure your picture matches mine. It couldn't have arrows. Okay, it has to have endpoints showing that it's starting and stopping. Okay, we're going to skip the bottom one for now, so make sure you have this picture. That was just kind of a quick review of those vocab words again. Lines go on forever. Line segments start and stop at 2 endpoints. Rays go on forever in one direction, but they have an endpoint at the other. Okay, go ahead and look at your next page. The next page says, describe plane shapes. Remember, plane shapes, that just means flat. Okay, they're flat, they're not three-dimensional. A plane shape is a shape on a flat surface. Some plane shapes are made by connecting line segments at their endpoints. One example is a triangle. It says, describe a triangle using math words. A triangle has blank line segments. So we know a line segment is going to start and stop at an endpoint. So here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. So it has 3 line segments, and the line segments meet only at we know they meet at their endpoints. Okay, if the points are at the very end of the line, we call them endpoints. If it's just in the middle of a line, okay, we would call them a point. Okay, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. If you need to pause, do so. If you're caught up, then keep going. It says a quadrilateral has blank line segments. So if we look at a quadrilateral, okay, we can see here's a line segment, this is a line segment, this is a line segment, and this is a line segment, which means it has 4 line segments. Okay, from here to here is 1, here to here is 2, here to this point is 3, and from this endpoint to this point is 4. Okay, quadrilaterals are 4-sided shapes, okay, or 4 line segments. The next one is called a hexagon. Hexagons have 6 line segments. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 6 sides, which means 6 line segments because they all start and stop at an endpoint. Okay, the next one is called a pentagon. These are good math vocab words. These are going to come up in all of our lessons throughout this geometry chapter. Okay, we need to know the names of our shapes, counting their sides. Quadrilaterals have 4 sides. Hexagons have 6 sides. Pentagons have 5 sides. So if you look, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which makes for 5 line segments. Okay, they all start and stop at an endpoint. Okay, I'm going to keep scrolling down. Make sure that your papers are getting filled out. This one says, draw a plane shape, which means it has to be flat, which we're drawing it on paper, so it will be. It says, draw a shape by connecting 7 line segments at their endpoints. Use a ruler. Okay, so we're not going to use a ruler, but we're just going to try to make them kind of straight as we possibly can with your pencil. Okay, we have to have 7 line segments, and they have to be connecting at their endpoint. So we got to make sure we follow all these directions. So they have to be connected. There has to be 7 of them. They have to be line segments, which means they start and stop at an endpoint. Okay, so let's see. I might do, and your shape doesn't have to look exactly like mine, but it does have to have 7 line segments. So I might do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and if I were to just kind of draw the points so you can see them, you don't have to do this, but I can see all these endpoints. Some lines are short, some lines are long. Okay, they just said we have to have 7. So if we look at my shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and they're all connecting. They all meet at an endpoint, and there's 7 of them, which means I followed all the directions. This is not the only way you could have drawn a 7-sided shape. Okay, that's why I said if you drew a shape before I did, it might not match mine exactly. You just have to make sure that it's connected. There's 7 line segments, okay, which also makes for 7 endpoints, okay, because they all have to be connected at their endpoint. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Make sure you have a 7-sided picture drawn, and then go ahead and go to your next page. And the next one says, describe plane shapes. Okay, a plane shape, we've already said, is a shape on a flat surface. It says some plane shapes are made by connecting line segments at their endpoint. One example is a triangle. So we had this on one of the other pages as well. It's just kind of good review. So if we're looking at the triangle, we can see that there's 3 line segments and they meet at their end points. Oh, wait, hold on. This is the same one. Hold on, that one's on here twice. Go ahead and go, to this page. This one says, use the picture of the street crossing for numbers 14 and 15. So if we have this street crossing, this one, it says it's West Street, and this one says Pearl Street. Okay, and we see some different points on here. We can see that there's arrows on the end of the line showing that they're continuing on. Okay, so this one says name a line. So if we want a line, we need to make a line. If we look back at here at our chart, a line is going to have 2 points, but it has to have those arrows on the end, and you have to draw the arrows up above. Okay, so if we're looking at this one, we have to choose one of the lines. So we either have this line, which would be LN, with the arrows continuing, or this line JK with the arrows continuing. So it doesn't matter which one, you just have to make sure you write it the right way. So I'm going to use LN, line LN, and up above you have to draw one with 2 arrows. If you don't have the 2 arrows up above it, then it's incorrect, because you have to show it's a line that's going to go on forever. Okay, number 15 says name array. Well, array has to start at a point and then has to continue on in one direction, which means we would probably start at the letter M, point M, and then continue on. So like this could be MK. So I'm going to do that one. And then above it, you have to draw your line with 1 arrow. Okay, not 2, because 2 is a line, 1 is array. Okay, look at number 16. It says, how many line segments does shape X have? List them. Okay, so if you look right here, this says shape X, so this is the shape they're talking about. It says, how many line segments do they have? So first, let's count our line segments. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the answer to the first question is 5 line segments. And then it says list them. So we have to list all 5 of the line segments that are in shape X. So if I look at the first line segment that I looked at, it starts at A and it ends at B. So the first line segment would be AB. And up above, we draw a line, but with nothing. We don't put the little endpoints on there, even though it has endpoints. We just draw a line with nothing. Okay, the next one starts at B and ends at C. So we write BC with a line above it. This one starts at C and ends at D, which means we put CD with a line above it, no arrows, no endpoints. Okay, the next one starts at D and ends at E. So we have DE with just a line. Okay, that was from D to E. The last one is from E to A. So we have EA and just a line above it. No arrows, just a line on top showing that it's a line segment instead of a line. Okay, so there was 5, and you should have all 5 of them listed. A, B, B, C, C, D, D, E, and E, A. Okay. Look at number 17. It says, Vanessa drew the shape at the right and called it a quadrilateral. Explain why Vanessa is incorrect. Okay, if you look back here to our page, we said quadrilaterals have to have 4 line segments. Okay, if we look at Vanessa's picture, hopefully we can see there's not 4 line segments. Okay, if you count, there's only 1, 2, 3. So it would not be a quadrilateral. Okay, so it says explain why Vanessa is incorrect. Okay, we need to say this is a triangle. This is a triangle. And then we have to tell why, because it only has 3 line segments. Okay, because it only, everybody's writing, has 3 line segments instead of 4. Okay, so it can't be a quadrilateral because quadrilaterals have 4 sides. And this triangle only has 3 line segments. Okay, so everybody's writing. Pause the video if you need to have more time to write. It says this is a triangle because it only has 3 line segments instead of 4. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. Pause if you need to. Number 18, it says select the words that describes the part of shape A. So here's shape A. Okay, we got to figure out which one of these is a ray, a line segment, and a point. Okay, so quick review. Rays continue on in one direction. They have 1 arrow. Lines continue on in both directions forever. They have 2 arrows. A line segment has 2 endpoints. It's just talking about a part of a line. And a point is just either an endpoint at the end of a line or a point somewhere on a line. Okay, so if I look at this one, I have BG. But if you look up above, that tells you your clue of what it is. There's no arrows on either end. Okay, which means it's just a line segment. So if I'm just going from B to G, okay, it's only part of a line. So on the box, write line segment. It's just part of the line. Okay, and then cross it out. The next one is CD. Well, C and D, and if you look up above, there's 2 arrows. If we're showing it continues on in both directions, then that is called a line. Continues on both directions forever. The next one is from B to E, so notice it started at an endpoint, okay, and then it continued. We call those a ray. Okay, and the next one is just one single letter, okay, which means it's talking about a point. Okay, just point A, if it's only a single letter with nothing above it, okay, that would be considered a point. Okay, so I would keep this packet on your desk so as you work through your PowerPoint, you can refer back to some of these vocab words so you remember which one is which. Okay, we will continue reviewing these the rest of the week and throughout our whole geometry chapter. Okay, make sure you have all the questions in the packet filled out.